much of our day is lived out with that truth, or how often we forget it. Coming to the end of a day, perhaps asking yourself, how often this day did I remind myself I am the light? How often this day did I remind somebody else they are the light? It's not a judgment. For me, when I ask that question, it just expresses to me how I sleepwalk through life. How oblivious I am to what's going on around me and inside of me as well. How far away my mind can be from the truth of who I am. Even when there are solid reminders around, here I am. I'm going to ask you to do something this morning, and that is to use your imagination a little bit, along with your mind and your heart. So I'd like to suggest that you imagine you're in this rather ethereal space. Sometimes we call it heaven, but it's really not an end point. It's sort of a space of consciousness. And you're there getting ready to incarnate here on planet Earth, which you've done before. This is not something new. It's a new trip. And so what you do is you gather together all of your guides and your angels, all those people who are kind of helpers in the world beyond. And you all sit down together. Well, I'm not sure whether your spirit really sits down, but you can imagine your spirit sitting down. And you sit down with your guides and your angels and you map out what you're going to learn, what you're going to do this particular lifetime. What lessons you are going to learn, what stuff you might need to clean up from other lifetimes. And you work out a kind of a blueprint. It's not chiseled in stone. The events are not chiseled in stone. What is chiseled in stone are the lessons you decide to learn. How they come about is going to happen in different ways for different people. But each one of us is going to unfold the way exactly the way it's supposed to. So here I am making this plan, and before I decide to incarnate, before I take physical form, guess what I do? I pick out my parents. Because they are going to be my first teachers. In fact, they are going to be the ones who probably teach me the most this time around. Not only what to do, but also what not to do. And so what happens is that I inherit from my parents not only this huge gene pool of physical attributes, but also strengths and weaknesses, psychological difficulties with anger and fear, being lighthearted, being overly serious, my nationality, and all that carries with it. My financial circumstances, my religion of origin, how I express love, how I take in other emotions, how I express my emotions, how I express my feelings, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. All of those things are wrapped up in that package. And you know what happens? I start thinking those things are who I am. Because the moment I take physical form, I forget what that song said. I become all of those things that I'm not. I fall into forgetfulness. You know, I heard this story actually this came from the source years and years ago. I heard it repeated by a number of other people, but I was very close to the source of the story. Christina was the one who shared it with me and a group of us a long time ago. It was about a little boy who was about 4 years old, and Mom and Dad were having another baby, and they had a baby sister. And the little 4-year-old said, "You know, I want to spend some time. I want to talk to my sister, but I want to do it alone." So all of these thoughts of sibling rivalry and all this other stuff started coming up in the mother and father's heads. Well, you know, we've got a little baby monitor in there. Nothing bad's going to happen. I said, okay. hear the patter of these little 4-year-old feet walking up to the crib. And silence. And this little boy says to his sister, "Tell me about God because I'm starting to forget." Have you ever looked in a little baby's eyes and seen that infinity kind of shining back at you? Sometimes it's difficult to recall that you were like that once. So was I. Because what happens is we go into people training, what one of my teachers likes to call somebody training. In fact, what happens is all of these people are telling us who we are, but they don't know who they are. But for most of us, we don't have any other recourse to go, but I guess what they're saying is true. Now, it seems rather unfair that I would forget what I need to know so deeply and would spend probably the rest of my life trying to rediscover something that I think I had lost. But you know, it's not unfair so much as the forgetfulness is also part of the journey. Hide and seek would be no fun at all if you knew all the hiding places. Charades would be no fun at all if you knew all the costumes. How are you going to learn and grow if you don't take the curriculum? How are you going to find out what you don't know until you discover what you do? And how do you discover what you do know when you realize what you don't? You see, it's not realizing that I'm just doing this whole thing all over again. It's not like the same, well, here I am back on planet Earth learning the same thing that I forgot last time. God and the universe are not careless or senseless. The soul always knows that it is being stretched. Its capacity for love, its giving ability to give and receive is expanded each moment of consciousness. It's like Scott Peck's definition of love. He said, love is the ability to stretch oneself for one's own spiritual growth or the growth of another. It's not about repeating the same lesson. It's about stretching and moving into a higher consciousness, a higher way of doing things. But by the time we become conscious of the path we are on, we begin to realize that all of the situations that show up in life, whether it's a spilled cup of coffee or a sickness or an illness, no matter what end of the spectrum might happen to be, are in some ways things that have been planned by the soul to be able to work on, to learn from. It's all there. Nothing is by chance. Now again, it's not chiseled in stone, but anything that shows up in my life, I know exactly why it's there. It's for me to learn from. It's for me to stretch with. It's for me to grow with. And I might refuse to do that for a while. I might say, I enjoy being angry. I enjoy being judgmental because you deserve it. Or I enjoy whatever lower vibrational thought that I'm holding on to because somehow or another I get some juice out of it. That's okay, that's part of my free will. Eventually what's going to happen though is I'm going to begin to ask myself, what does this event, this person, this situation, this relationship, what does it have to teach me? These are the circumstances of my life that I've created. What am I supposed to learn from them? For me, and I can just speak for myself here, a centerpiece of my learning was, I was going to say was, but it still is, okay? Hadn't disappeared. A central piece of my learning is this huge chunk of insecurity, along with this sort of blank spot where my identity should be. I was always trying to discover who I was. And I was always afraid, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, I was always afraid somebody was going to tear open the curtains and see this little old man with all these levers and gears and stuff trying to manipulate what was going on around and didn't have a clue. I've kind of gotten past that one, but it was with me for many, many years in this lifetime, waiting for somebody to open the curtains and discover, say, I got you. And you know, for each one of us, there is an event or a set of circumstances that wakes us up to this journey of consciousness. Could be and this journey of transformation. Could be a sickness, could be an illness, could be a divorce, could be an addiction. Could be something less dramatic. Could be beginning to discover that my life from 9 to 5 has nothing to do with my life from 5 to 9. Or maybe asking the age-old question, you know, is that all there is? What else is there? So here we all are. And you know, there are times of forgetfulness, for me as well as for you, that I forget the reality that I'm a beloved child of God, unconditionally loved. And then I'll remember and I'll forget, and I'll remember and I'll forget again, 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 again. And to my little personality self, it seems so senseless. Why am I forgetting just so I can remember? We often describe that as being stuck or being lost. But it's only true for the personality, the limited self. The soul is never stuck, is never lost. It doesn't mean that the discomfort of life sometimes doesn't just disappear. But what it does, it reminds me that everything that comes along has a purpose, has a meaning. In fact, everything that comes along is of God. Now, the personality might be upset because many of the learnings that we have to do are not terribly comfortable. It might even be a little bit angry. Stretching doesn't always feel good. But sometimes when you begin to stretch, you notice, oh, I really needed to do that. It felt a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning. Let me see if I can just sort of work my way into stretch. What would it be like to open your heart just a little bit more? We've all had this experience where we've gone through, let's say, something difficult in life. And we worked our way through it somehow or another and gotten to the other side. And without even, and all of a sudden, somebody in our lives, a friend or a family member, we find that is doing or going through the same thing. And unbelievably, what we have now is the gift of compassion. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I can help guide you through that because I walked through that fire myself. I know, when I say I know what you're feeling, you can believe me because I do know what you're feeling. And people will know the difference between you just saying that, you know, wanting to be nice. But when somebody comes up to me or I come up to somebody else who's struggling with darkness, who's struggling with depression, I say, I know how you, they know I know. Sometimes we don't even realize we have grown until we're presented with a situation in life that we would have responded to one way and we find ourselves responding to it in another way. And that's something. We are often like Gabriel or like Jacob with the angel who said, I will not go and let it go until you bless me. That is such a marvelous truth and a marvelous story. And that's just one little, that struggle I might have with uncertainty, with self-esteem. That's just one little piece. Can you imagine the thousands of people that move into and out of our lives? The thousands of encounters we have, all of those people who have touched us and we have been touched by. And all of those people that we have touched who have touched others, who have touched others, who have touched others, touched others. It's all part of this picture. I think one of the things we forget in unity, because in unity we like to explain everything. We like to have everything make sense. But also over in the corner there is this thing called mystery. It's stuff that we can't explain. It goes beyond the intellect. It goes beyond our human mind. The essence of truth of who you are and who I am, this unconditionally loved child of God, surpasses all understanding. It can never be proven. It can simply be known. I remember Reverend Ray and I were having a talk one time before, I think it was probably before Sunday school. And we were talking about giving sermons at Unity. which we both really enjoy doing. And I said to Ray, I said, you know, Ray, I said, there's really only one sermon. It comes by a lot of different names, but there's really only, and he said, you know, I think you're right. He said, what would you call it? What would you call it? I said, the one sermon that we're all talking about all the time, even though the clothes we wear are different, is remember who you are. Everything else is just commentary. You see, beyond your personality self, beyond all the roles you've decided to play, beyond all the characters and all the costumes, in this moment of truth, you don't throw all that stuff away either. It doesn't disappear. None of that's a waste. But you begin to recognize that this personality and ego structure that you spent a lifetime putting energy into and creating, instead of being something that we throw away and say, that's not who I am, what happens is, in the truth of our being, we make that into the lens through which the divine light that you are shines through. That's why we can say each one of you is unique. Because each one of us is the sum total of all of our life experiences. And that is that lens through which the light shines through. And you know, some lenses are clearer than others. So Mother Teresa or Gandhi come by and you say, you know, I know you're Mother Teresa, you're Gandhi, but you're really God in disguise. Because the veil between you and the reality of who you truly are is so thin, I see right through it. And then there are others in life that are a little bit more challenging, when we have a really difficult time seeing the truth of who they are. And yet, that's where the lessons are in Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is always shining. It's very easy to see God in her. The challenge comes in seeing God in others that we have a real difficult time with, when my personality gets ensnared in their personality. From my beliefs today in awareness, there's no end to all of this. You don't get there. That's only a premise that's held on to by the limited self. The journey, the growth, the transformation is a continual one. God and love and truth and life are always evolving. They're never just in one place, growing in ways that are mysterious and yet in ways that we can be aware of every moment of every day. Remember who you are. And by remembering who you are, you remember the truth of who all other beings are as well. No matter what they might look like, no matter what they might appear like, no matter what your personality might react to them as. Beyond thought, beyond judgment, beyond feelings. Remember who you are. And know that this transformational journey we are on is not just a journey that we've taken any number of times before and we're doing the same thing expecting different results. The journey we are on in this moment in time is going deeper and deeper and deeper into the truth of who you are. And because you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the truth of who you are, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the truth of who others are. We are all united and as one in spirit and life and love, grace, truth. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free of suffering. And may all beings remember who they are. Thank you.